The Immortal Thor, issue number 6. That's right, folks. We're getting deep into the insanity of this, bonfire tale. This is a really interesting issue. And I think if you have been, skeptical of this book for the most part at this moment, this issue is not going to sell you on what this run is, because it's like the tale of tales in an ever-changing tale. And you're like, what the hell are you doing here? I kind of dig it. You know, I've only recently delved into Thor as a main character for me. I think there's something interesting to explore there, kind of. I've never loved it, but this run has been so interesting so far. It's done a lot of creative things with the character while staying kind of true to the continuity of Marvel. I think that's really fun. And this issue is insane. There is a lot going on in this book. Crazy. So this issue opens up, okay? We're seeing the story we're reading through the lens of a comic book. The first panel of this book is a comic book of the second panel, but it's the first panel. So does that make sense to you? The idea, okay, we'll get to that. We'll get to what that means at the end here, but this opening up, panel 1, a comic book of the second panel, but the first panel, that's actually not the comic book of the comic book panel, is the panel in the comic book of the first panel. Okay, what's happening is Loki, as the teller of tales, is sitting down Thor to explain one of their earlier journeys into mystery, like an event that happened to them in their shared past. Now, if this particular story actually happened in an early journey into mystery, I don't know. Maybe it did. I'm not aware. Probably something similar did happen. But the idea is Loki is starting a bonfire, and they are going to show Thor a part of their history, so Thor can become aware, because they have lived many lives and have experienced all this stuff. The tale, who's this the tale of? It is Euler, whose name gave shape to visionary, seer, and poet. And basically it's we learn of a history so Thor can better understand why Gaia, his mother, went to war with the Utgard gods, that kind of thing. That's what we're doing here. So this entire issue is kind of a flashback. We'll be cutting interspersely with the present day Thor and Loki talking about what happens. But Loki's going to send their brother and them into a past life, once upon a time, where we see a flashback of all the different interpretations of Loki, till we get to classic first appearance versions of Thor and Loki. They are standing next to a weird bridge, and you open up this flashback, and Loki's I don't think we should go down that path. It doesn't seem good. I believe we should go back to Asgard and be normal. And Thor's what is this, Loki? What did you do to Loki? Loki doesn't follow rules. Just starts yanking on his ear who's this imposter? And as they're about to venture on the journey, we cut back to the present, and Thor's was I really like that? And Loki goes, well, sometimes better, sometimes worse. But you learned humility, and that is the key lesson in the Thor story. So they head down the dark bridge. It leads them to a darkened forest where they see some weird glowing lights. There's eyes watching them everywhere. There's a weird gate. And Loki's we should really head back now. This is not a normal thing. But the gate creaks open, and Thor's no, we have to go. We're going through the gate. Loki, don't be a little bitch. We're going through the gate. So Thor's yanking on their ear, taking them through the gate. That's what they're doing. They end into a weird forest where suddenly everything grows around them, where they're the size of ants. They're smaller than mushrooms, and they start to kind of okay, I don't know what's going on. I feel we should stop. This is a bad idea. Maybe they should seek shelter for the night or something. Thor's okay, what about this weird cave in this tree? So they go inside this cave. Loki the entire time. This is a bad idea. I don't like this. Suddenly, the ground, starts to shake beneath them, and they start falling through, the roots. They land in another, realm or something underneath the roots that they have fallen through. And is it Loki that, yeah, I think Loki makes a bubble to kind of, protect them. And then suddenly they, run into, a weird giant, and he's what the hell? He's, gnats inside a bubble? What the hell is this? They're hello, sir. Who are we speaking to? And we thank thee for your hospitality, noble one. He's I've never had a name before. That's very interesting. You can call me Skuramir. I think it's Skuramir. Copy the copycat. And Loki's like, okay, this guy's mad. Let's go home now, please. I have food in my bag. And you're like, oh, okay. What I really like about this is even if it's not like an actual Journey into Mystery story from the classic era of like the 60s, it feels like it because it's like Thor and Loki fall through a hole and they meet a giant who's got magic food for them. And they're both really hungry. So the lesson is they have to open a giant sack and get food. And I really like the facial expressions. Like, the artwork in this book is stellar, and Matthew Wilson's like one of my favorite colorists at Marvel right now. Like, just incredible work. I love the very specific expressions like a classic story would have of like a character rolling their eyes or like a big like grin or like their tongue sticking out like they're hungry. It's really funny. So their new friend Skiromir sits them down and it's like, here, you can open this sack and you can have the food inside of the sack. I'm going to go slumber in the corner and take a little nap really quick. And then in the present time, Loki is like, okay, do you remember this now? Are you remembering this journey, like all these lives we've lived? Remember the smell. Remember the cheese and the meats and the fish. Remember all this smell. Isn't that smell good? If we could open the bag, it tastes so yummy. And they're struggling to open the bag. They just have to like untie a knot, but it's not working. Thor's trying to slash it with his hammer. Nothing is opening. He's like, this is trickery. This is blasphemy. I'm so pissed off right now. I am so hungry that I am going to kill Skiromir, and he's just going to have to put up with shit for not letting me eat. So we watch as Thor climbs off the sack, heads up to Skiromir, plants his like axe high in the air, is ready to strike down the might of a god and crush him, but it doesn't work. All that happens is it awakes Skiromir from his nap. And you're like, hell yeah, that's really cool. Of course, this is something that Thor would want to like block out of his mind, because he's going to kill a guy because he can't eat food, because he can't untie a knot. Like, try cutting the sack open, dude. Like, what the hell, you know? It's really cool. Like, I think it's a really brilliant thing to do with this character. It's so much fun. So then the giant awakens, and he's like, huh, that was weird. I felt like something hit my head. But maybe it didn't. I don't actually know. I felt something strange. Very strange. He's like, behold, just beyond like the river that way, we can go through and get to Utgard Hall. Utgard Hall, the Hall of Utgard, Utgard Hall, whatever you want to call it. And the book opened up with a panel from a comic book. The issue ends, and we are seeing the hands of Dario, who is the Minotaur who owns Roxxon, who just bought Marvel Comics in the Marvel Comics universe. He's holding the very comic book we have been reading, and he's like, the story's changing as I read it. And it's like, it's Scald Magic, Dario, but two could play at that game, and the prize is the mighty Thor. And that's when you see that while Thor and Loki in the present timeline are doing this very thing, they're going back into reading this story, that Dario and the Enchantress are reading the story too. So this one says the Mighty Thor issue 272. If anybody wants to go back and see if that's the actual story, be my guest. I'm not going to do it. What I find very interesting too is the end of this book, you have Dario being like, the story is changing. Like, this isn't the original Mighty Thor 272. And that's because this is Loki changing the actual narrative. Because at the beginning of this book, when we see Loki and Thor actually talking about what it is they're about to do, you see Loki explain like, I will help you on this journey. I will guide you, but I am the narrator. I am the storyteller. I am the writer, essentially. What I say is the word of God. I am neither hero nor villain. I am neutral. I am not here to help you. I am here to tell the story as it is seen, as it is written. And that means that things are going to change, because they also kind of bring up, and the thing that Loki brings up is that the way memory works both to gods and to like story, and this is kind of metatextual, talking about like continuity, if you want to put it that way, is it changes depending on how you remember it and what you wish to remember. Like, every time you relive a memory, you are reliving the memory of that memory, so nothing is truly the original tale. So when Thor and Loki are now changing this story from Thor 272, that is changing the way it is written in the comic book that is presented to Dario and Enchantress. And I think that is really insane. I think that's really cool and a very compelling idea that works for Thor. We also recently saw like the big images that is going to be appearing soon, where it's like the stories that Enchantress and Dario are going to make for Thor versus the Immortal Thor story that's going on. Like, there's a big, arc coming up in like March and April about that. I am super excited to see where this is going to go. I loved this issue so much. I think the artwork is so sharp. I think the writing, I think Ewing really gets the writing for these characters. He's played with like some meta commentary on both like comic book continuity, what it means to be a writer, and Thor is this immortal being who has been through it all and forgets key moments of his own existence. It's really impressive. I genuinely love this issue. It's so good. This is such an interesting Thor run. I don't think it's what anybody was expecting, but by God, is it so much fun, and it's so creative in so many different ways. What a good time. So, the Immortal Thor, issue number 6, I am going to give a 9 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.